Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Monday Discourse for today, October 3rd, 2022. I'm your host, Tristan. September really flew by, I gotta say. My name's Tristan. I'm the host of Step Back at stepbackhistory.com, or the co-host of the podcast It's Probably Not Aliens at probsnotaliens.com. I stream on Mondays at noon, time permitting, time and internet permitting, and I go for a couple hours. If you wish to support my stream, I have multiple, as well as all the content I do. You can go to patreon.com/stepbackhistory, support the channel for as little as 84 cents a month, and get updates and extra bonus content and early videos and all sorts of fun stuff. There's a lot of good goodies in there. I try to make my Patreon the best deal for $1 that you can get away with. If you want to, you can also become a channel member on YouTube, or if you have Amazon Prime, you can become a Twitch Prime subscriber at no extra cost to you. It's just baked into your Amazon Prime membership, and I would recommend you use it at least once a month for a streamer. If you choose me, I'd be very grateful, but if you got it, use it for sure. And what else? If you have super chats, bits, Twitch subscriptions, if you have the money for it, and I don't I'm not being pushy, but if you wanna help out, you can, and it's appreciated, but no pressure. And of course, my latest video is on the 9/11 Truth Movement, which came out a few weeks ago. I hope that you guys are enjoying it. My next video comes out... ? My next video is finished. It is done. I am waiting on I'm waiting on two things. I'm waiting on approval from the sponsor, and I'm waiting on a guest clip from another YouTuber who has had a few things go on, so he's kind of delayed getting his clip to me. But once those two things are through, there will be content for you soon. So hang on tight in the meantime. But it is on the assassination of President James Garfield. So it'll be worth it. And then I'll have another video that I'm working on now, which is part 2 of my Russia video, which will be coming out later this month. I'm sort of editing the script now. And if you want to ask a question, I've got a little URL here, but I will also link in the chat a place where you can submit questions to the stream. I hang on to them for a month, and I sort of do a first come first serve with a little bit of a thing to manage spamming. So that's a thing. And oh god, sorry, I don't know why. It's been a very busy morning. And if there's any new folks, please make yourself known in the chat. I am there's a lot of great stuff. There's a lot of really great communities going on, and now that we've got the crossover chat, we are no longer separated by the two platforms. So please make yourself known. We've got a great community, and everyone's really friendly with each other. Okay. Should be everything. Let's see what we've got going on in the chat. We've got Logan, we got Pim, we got Renee. Are cars destroying cities? Yeah. Definitely. The fact that you don't have streets that you can walk in anymore. I mean, there are some cities, like the city that my wife lives in, or grew up in, there's a lot of places that don't even have sidewalks. So yeah. Probably depends where you are. I imagine Europe has a less car-centric culture, but here it's pretty bad. More of a path. They've already destroyed cities. Yeah, the thing is that when you are a problem that affects urban design, unfortunately, the problem will then be It'll then be expressed in concrete and steel and, where buildings are, where services are, where money went. And so the decision to embrace cars full-throated has resulted in cities that are extremely unlivable and sprawling, environmentally destructive suburbs that that no young people can afford, and are also isolated from everything. So you need to have a car. It's super fun. Love that. Should I get Nebula at some point? If you want to, it's a pretty good deal. It's pretty cheap, and it does, like, watching a video on Nebula, you get the video early, you get extra content, and there's like originals and stuff like that. There's a lot of value that comes out of that if you like the YouTubers who are on Nebula. I will say that. Yeah. Some of the beer fear and historical black people, women, and queers. Nice. The iron chat curtain has been broken. Yeah, for sure. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm sort of redlining the engines this year, but I'm okay. And if I'm not okay, I will be okay. I will be. Every source of stress in my life right now is focused. Is basically has a time limit on it. So I will only not be okay until the end of February. Then I'll be okay. Then I will, what's it called? Then I will finally, I have a lot of, what's it called? I don't have a lot of free time these days, and I miss going to the gym. And the gym was pretty, I didn't realize how much going to the gym, like, positively affected my mood. For a habit I only had for about 4 months when I couldn't stop doing it anymore, so. Yeah. So then that's redlining the engines. I think that it was called. I feel like maybe that's not a word people use anymore. Redlining is usually like when you're pushing the engine to the unsafe, like it's like when you accelerate to unsafe speeds. Like you're pushing the machine to like the part where it can't guarantee that it's going to stop from melting down if you do it for too long. You know. It's like in Star Trek when they go to warp 9, they can only do it for like a few hours at a time because it's too much. It's too much on the engines there. They don't talk about that much on the show. That's sort of like a wiki nerd thing. But yeah. Okay. So how is... Oh, and also, normally Mia would be here. She is sick, so not here today. Sometimes moving left feels like losing liberal friends. Yeah, that is true. There is a point in like left-wing politics where the further left you go, you start when you start alienating the liberals. That's when you start like, you know. I won't lie. I've driven a few wedges into some friendships because of my my glorious takes. Though I have a bad habit of making everybody who I know long enough pretty much hate me. So you know, there's that. I can be fairly annoying in person, I guess. Anyways, the engine can accomplish this kind of output, but not necessarily sustain it for very long, and it might cause overheating and or lasting damage. Yeah. Yeah, that's me. That's me right now. Oof. You know, what's it called? It's daycare wait lists. That's what's got me. That's what's got me messed up. You just don't have to pressure them. That's why anybody loses them. Yeah, I don't pressure my liberal friends. I just, what's it called? If anybody, there are some moments when you are very ideologically left wing, where liberals will be angry for you just having those opinions at certain times. Like, for example, I think the most I ever got in trouble with liberal friends was when we were approaching the 2020 election. I had some people who got mad at me during the 2016 presidential election time because I was a Bernie supporter. I know I had one friend who got really mad at me for being a Bernie supporter and basically like yelled at me for supporting Bernie after Trump won. And then years later, she became a socialist and apologized to me. So I don't know. But 2020, when there was a time where any criticism of Joe Biden was something that was going to get you in trouble, because they think that somehow not just that tolerating that Joe Biden is the least horrible candidate is not good, and you have to full throat endorse the most right-wing Democratic president since they moved to the left in like the 19 teens or whatever. Why are people mad at me for being a Bernie supporter? Because then that meant that I was criticizing Hillary Clinton. I made a step back video back in 2016 where I sort of posited that I did a neoconservative video, a video about what neoconservatism was. And some people really didn't appreciate that. I talked about how now that Trump has taken over the Republican Party, a lot of the old school neocons are moving to the Democrats. And that Hillary Clinton seemed to be like a sign that the neoconservatives have moved to the Democratic Party, because in a lot of ways, if you follow like Hillary Clinton's foreign policy career, she very much like kind of does neoconservative type things, but in the Democratic Party. And I made that point in a video, and because it was done in like October of 2016, people were not happy with that. So I guess it was that. That was more that I kind of like with 2020, that I criticized the candidate during, because you see in liberal mind there is like a 40-minute window where it is not too soon after the election, but not too soon before the next election, where you're allowed to criticize candidates, and that I did a criticism outside of that window. So that was basically what happened. So that was that. But oftentimes what happens with me when I hang out with people long enough is that they start out as liberals, and then I destroy their reality and they end up becoming socialist. I have a lot of people who I've spent a lot of time with who I have tangibly radicalized them over time, apparently. I think when I started dating my wife, she was a liberal, and now she's like a die-in-the-wool socialist. So, how did Canada take to the death of the Queen? It seems like we didn't freak out as much as the UK did. It was definitely not considered polite for doing actions like I did, which was just openly celebrating it. But honestly, they tried to make it a holiday the day of her funeral, but none of the provinces actually gave anybody time off work they're like, it's a holiday, but the kind of holiday that you still have to go to work for. So nothing happened on that front, and now she's dead and nobody talks about it anymore. My stream is lagging a little bit. Is that true? I'm not getting any drop frames. But yeah, I wish Canada would leave the Commonwealth too. That is, I agree. That is a true say there. Holidays are for doubling down on serving capital. Yeah. There was a time back in the day where Armistice Day or Remembrance Day was a actual holiday in Canada. And that was because like Canada used to have a holiday for every month of the year, and so November's was Armistice Day, Remembrance Day, whatever you want to call it. We had the day off, but then they decided that we weren't taking this very serious, solemn holiday serious and solemnly enough because we were doing fun stuff on our days off. So they unmade it a holiday, and now we have to go to work on Remembrance Day because. They're like, no, you have to show the proper. You can't have fun on Remembrance Day, so now you have to show your dignity by doing work. And now we just don't have a November holiday. The only November holiday is Tristan's birthday, which should be it's only observed in the United States. For some reason, they take my birthday, and then the week that it happens, they choose like the Thursday of that week, and they celebrate my birthday by eating. Like, what's it called? By eating turkey, I guess? So that's that. I feel like in the UK, the way that people handle the death of the Queen seems to be that people who liked the Queen got way more into it and being like, you are not mourning her hard enough. But people who don't like the Queen were stronger on like, we should dump the monarchy and all that kind of stuff. In Canada, it was like, some people were like, I kind of like them, like, this is sad. And then the people who don't like the monarchy were just like, I don't care. Do I like spicy food? Fuck yeah, I do. I eat a lot of spicy food. I eat absurdly spicy food. I'm the kind of person, when I was like a teenager, I had a friend who tested out hot sauces on me. So yeah, I'm a sucker for spicy food. Give me some of that like Indian curry that makes you see through time. I will enjoy that. I'll happily take your birthday off. I'll happily take your birthday month off. Just won't be eating meat. Yeah, fair. In America, they celebrate my birthday because my birthday is on the 27th of November. So at least once every 7 years or so, they celebrate my birthday on my birthday day. But typically in the same week, they do a thing with turkey. So would I ever eat the death chip that comes in the coffin package? I have been extremely curious. The one chip challenge. I will not lie, my heart has greatly desired to try it, but also it's like $15 for a chip, and I'm not paying that. What's my sign? My sign is Sagittarius. Or if we're going by the Chinese, I was born on the year of the dragon. What's the death chip? The death chip is it's a thing called the one chip challenge, and it comes in a box that's shaped like a coffin, and it has this like big black Dorito basically in it. And what it is that it is obscenely spicy. Like it's so spicy that just eating the one chip is supposed to be like a challenge in and of itself. But I haven't had one myself. So there's that. It's give you stomach problems for days kind of spice levels. Yeah. It's not worth it. Yeah, probably. I'm probably too old for that shit now. I'd probably end up getting an ulcer or something. Yeah, because, like, what's it called? The next Tristan Day, that's next month, I turn 34? I feel like 34-year-olds shouldn't be taking the one chip challenge. That sounds dangerous. That sounds like a thing that you pretty much can't do after the age of 19 safely. What you do is you take the one chip challenge. So what you do? So you do the one chip challenge in a way so it's like a shot chaser thing. but you eat the chip, and then you have a chaser, which is just an entire bottle of Pepto-Bismol. And so what you do is as soon as a chip enters into your stomach, you got like a giant thing of bismuth there to just like put out the fire immediately. But I definitely have a decent tolerance for spicy food. I definitely spicy food where a lot of people fear to tread. Please don't burn a hole in my colon. I would not like that. I would not like to... Yeah, this is like the one chip will just give you Crohn's disease. Like, you will just develop it from eating this chip. What's my opinion on the Brazil election? So, as far as I know, Lula da Silva was favored to win. They did the first round of elections, and I think Lula da Silva won? Or he at least came in first in the 2 rounds of elections, but then he didn't quite get over the 50% mark, so they have to do a second round. So that's good. He's ahead, but from what I also picked up is that Bolsonaro performed a lot better than than like early polling suggested he would. So people are a little bit scared about that. But if it's an election just between Lula and Bolsonaro, or Da Silva and Bolsonaro, then go for it. Is Lula good? He's better than any politician in Canada or the US, that's for sure. Is he perfect? No. Is he better than any politician that Brazil's had? And is he better than any politician that, like, any country in the West has had? Probably. Brazilian civil war on the way? I would be more worried about a coup, a military coup, because Brazil is no stranger to military dictatorship, and they've had one in the past, and there are people, they're part of the extreme right in Brazil that kind of are nostalgic for the days when Brazil was a military dictatorship, and so it would not be as hard a sell to turn Brazil into a military dictatorship than, say, if they did it like in Canada or something. So that's where I'd be on. I think that there's a decent chance that Da Silva might win the election, but if there is an election, the thing is that I think there's a very real possibility that there might not be an election, and Bolsonaro will just use the sort of Trump big lie argument and just sort of finagle a military dictator position, which is what he really wanted to do. Like before he became the president of Brazil, Bolsonaro was pro-military dictatorship before. He was like a fan of the dictatorship, so. And yeah, he's got apparently the Brazilian military also likes Bolsonaro, so could very easily see that happen. But I hope that the Brazilians do not do that, and that enough people sort of get Lula da Silva into an unmistakable lead that, you know, Bolsonaro gets relegated to the ash heap of history like he deserves. You know, that's the hope, right? Is there a precedent for conservatives and fascists declaring a false election prior to Trump? False election? No. Conservatives the world over have a nasty habit of being of trying to make elections less democratic. That is for sure. Like the Republicans in America are the biggest ones for like trying to make it so that black people basically can't vote. In Canada, our Conservative Party are also the ones trying to make it as hard as possible to vote, and as on top of that, preserving the anti-democratic first past the post system so that left-wing parties don't really have a chance. So they do have a history of that. Declaring an election false or election results false is a bit of a new one. Several people have done it in the past, but Trump has really made it like a standard now that basically no election can now happen without the conservatives claiming that it was a false election. That's going to be that's just a standard now, which is a great sign, because that's like one of those things that leads to the collapse of democracy in a lot of places, is, sowing discord against the legitimacy of the election. Lula does seem to have a good chance. He has a good chance of winning, but not by like a huge margin. And the problem with that is Bolsonaro's already been trying to seed doubt that the election is going to be democratic, and that it's going to be like sort of like a Trump thing with false lies and stuff like that. So I think that Bolsonaro could lose this. Bolsonaro could either lose the second round of the election, or not even wait until the second round of elections and just declare that he won and become military dictator. Like, I have a feeling that those two possibilities could happen. He either basically cancels the second election and declares himself president for life or whatever, or after the second election he declares that the results are also fake and that he won. And unfortunately, the person who has the gun is usually the winner when it comes to elections. What's my opinion on what's going on with Iran right now? I'll tell you this. I'm not man bun man, so I don't typically try to wade into conversations that I don't know anything about and try to have a strong opinion on it. So as far as I know from Iran, there are massive protests breaking out about people who are kind of fed up with the morality police regime, because the morality police basically beat a woman to death for not covering her hair correctly, which is fucked up. And if that is the case, then yeah, go for it. Iran has an extremely fundamentalist right-wing regime that would definitely benefit the Iranians for not being a part of it, or not having it anymore. But also, that is also a very surface level, informed by mass Western media perspective. So I haven't done the deep dive into what's going on in Iran to really be able to have a take that I feel comfortable with, because I don't put random flags in my Twitter profile, and I don't have a man bun and just say whatever the first paragraph of Wikipedia tells me to think. And did I hear about the referendum in Cuba? Yes, I did. That is the referendum that basically defines a family as any group of people who love and care for each other. It's amazing. That's great. It's one of the most progressive LGBTQ plus legislations in the world, if not the most. So yeah, go for it. The Russian-held elections in Ukraine was a blatant sham? Possibly. I wouldn't be surprised. Unfortunately, I feel like there was no way that the election there's no way that the referendum on those regions joining Russia was ever going to not be called into question. Like, even if Putin did a completely very against his character 100% democratic, free and fair and transparent referendum on these regions joining Russia, it would still be, if they did not go the way that the West wanted, they would be declared not democratic, because it's that's just how it is. That being said, Putin's not exactly the greatest fan of democracy, even at the best of times. So I definitely have a lot of it's definitely a sus referendum. Is there a double standard in the way that the world deals with Iran human rights violations and Saudi Arabia human rights violations? Yes. Yeah, because one is a U.S. ally and one is not. Iran's like sort of like religious, like authoritarian regime definitely gets profiled a whole lot more because they are in defiance of American power, while Saudi Arabia is an ally of the U.S. and Israel. So, yeah, for sure. Because, yeah, Saudi Arabia, everything that Iran does that is terrible is done the same, if not more so, by Saudi Arabia. But Saudi Arabia gets a pass because they're a key strategic ally that has a huge oil reserve. I mean, Iran has a huge oil reserve too, but America doesn't like their government. And so if America doesn't like your government, you're going to be evil one way or the other. So one of those things, like the Russia video, if my part 2 to the Russia video that dares to have some sort of attempt at nuance and trying to be clear about the things that we do and don't know about what's going on, if that video, which will definitely land me in hot water, but if that does well and people like it, I might, I've been thinking about kicking around the idea of making a video on the history of North Korea and writing about North Korea and trying to do so with the idea that like context exists and being a little bit more skeptical about what we actually know versus what what is real, what is something that is like intentional mistranslations in order to make the regime look bad, or trying to like I don't really like I obviously I'm not pro North Korea, but something about the way the media narrative we make about North Korea makes it feel like we are collapsing a lot of nuance and ambiguity about the country into this like comically evil country. Sort of in the same way of what we're doing with Putin and Russia and the invasion of Ukraine, is that I'm not pro Putin. I think the invasion of Ukraine is a war crime and should not have happened. I also think that the collapsing of narratives and turning everything into this like cartoonishly evil narrative is unhealthy and is worrisome about how effective it is. That's the plan. Do I have any animals? Yes. I have a cat. I have a cat named Romeo. He's not in here. I don't know. He's probably downstairs or something. But yeah, I have a cat. I have a feeling that I'm gonna get the Russia video and this video is gonna make people think that I've tankified somewhat. I did jokingly say that the way that people responded to the pandemic turned me into a freaking Stalinist with the whole like people turning to fascism because of mask mandates. Maybe like, okay, people don't deserve it. People don't deserve. But that's just more me out of frustration for how people reacted. They were trained to act that way. Anyways, first let's do a question. So we don't have Mia for this one, sadly, so we'll have to get. I bet Man Bun Boy has a giant Soviet flag on his wall. I don't think so. I think he has a giant American flag on his wall. If we're talking about the same person who basically does zero research and but has very strong opinions about things that he knows nothing about, then I don't know. He seems to his takes always seem to just align with whatever U.S. foreign policy is for some reason. So, Man bun is just a term I use for a very specific guy that if you say his name out loud, his fans come and start harassing you, and they basically don't stop ever. And I would not like a. Luckily, most of the time his harassment campaigns are limited to women of color, but I would not put myself. I don't want to put myself in the crosshairs of a like absolutely like psychotic fan base. So I just try to vague post as much as possible. Okay, let's see. Since I'm a technology historian, what's the consensus on the Commodore Amiga? Commodore Amiga. Let's see this one. So, let's see. Commodore Amiga. It's the Commodore, or the Amiga 500. It's from 1991. Oh, it's the Commodore 64. Oh, yeah. The Commodore 64 was a huge deal because it was basically the first, like... the Commodore 64 was like the first major computer that you didn't have to be a hobbyist to use. Like, my dad had an Apple II back in the 80s, and it was possible to have a personal computer in the 80s, but for the most part, you were limited to either what were called teletype typewriters, which were basically like fairly smart typewriters. Its successor, the Commodore Amiga. I don't really. All right, then I will see what the Commodore Amiga has any. The Amiga is a family of personal computers introduced by Commodore in 1985. Mid 80s. See, like. So obviously, I don't know a ton of this about this. I guess it came out in the early 90s. Like if I were to speculate, it was like the sort of like late 80s, early 90s period for computer technology was when computers started to get just powerful enough and cheap enough that they could cross over into products that general people wanted. Like I said, my dad had an Apple II. And an Apple II, you basically had to be a programmer to find use out of such a thing. Like my dad had an Apple II because computers were his hobby. But like it could be that like that period is when computers crossed over from being like neat hobbyist things to just being a tool that people interacted with, and as like people started to digitize business and stuff like that. But I don't have a whole lot more to say about the Commodore, or at least I don't know that much about the Commodore Amiga. I'd have to. Let me see what. Let me see if Sci-Hub has anything interesting on. If anyone's written any articles on the Commodore Amiga. Maybe the Amiga is too European for this. Maybe. See if anyways. Oh, there's nothing on the Commodore Amiga on Sci-Hub, so. But I mean, I think that like in many ways, computers like the ones you're talking about sort of comes around the same time as sort of the first big Apple computer too, is that that the sort of the idea that computers could be used for consumer entertainment and stuff like that was sort of beginning to happen. But honestly, I think that it still had like it was getting more useful, and it probably would have gotten more useful. But then the internet happened, and shit tons of money went into developing computer information network technology that changed everything. And by the late 90s, computers started to become indispensable in the running of information-based industries, and the internet, like I think computers were on their way to becoming a indispensable tool in most offices, but definitely the internet came like freaking sent that to the moon. My dad, I remember when I was a kid, my dad had a laptop from work that we played games on, like in the early 90s. Like my dad had a big, like honking brick laptop from work that he would bring home after work. And then what my dad would do is we would install games that my dad bought, because my dad had Doom. And we had Warcraft. And I think we had some game called Heretic. Later on, we got like Diablo and like Warcraft 2 and Doom 2 and like those kind of games. And I remember what happened because we would have to install it using like 10 floppy disks or whatever. But then we'd have to uninstall it because my dad couldn't have it on his office computer when he went to work the next day. So he would the nightly ritual would be installing the games that then we could then play, and then uninstalling it before he had to go back to work the next day. Fun times. Brings me back. Which also just shows how stupid old I am. That I can remember that kind of shit. Because I was born in the Reagan administration, technically, so... I was born in November, and so actually, I remember correctly. I did a project when I was in school, when I was taking a history of communication class. We had to do a class where we looked at a newspaper, like we took one newspaper and studied it on the day you were born, and then I think like 20 years before you were born and 50 years before you were born. And so the day I was born, I did a newspaper in Catalonia called La Vanguardia, which is like one of the oldest running Catalonian newspapers, like Catalan language newspapers. And it was interesting because the one from the year I was born was a big, it was a big splash, there was a really big special in the paper on George Bush because I was born a few weeks after the American election of 1988, where George Bush got elected. So Ronald Reagan was in his lame duck session, and everyone was trying to figure out who's this George Bush guy that's going to be president. So that was the one. And then 20 years before I was born was 1968, where Spain was a fascist dictatorship, and there was a bunch of very interesting stuff in it that was like something you would only see in like the newspaper of a fascist dictatorship. Like the entire newspaper had a section on recent crimes, like recent trials, and how like who was on trial for what and how they turned out and like what punishments they got was in the paper. And I was like, oh, that's weird. That definitely could only happen under like a fucking fascist dictatorship like under Franco. And then the 50 years before I was born was 1938, which was during the Spanish Civil War, and it was an entire like begging the world to intervene to stop Franco because it was it's a Valencian newspaper, so it was like one of the last holdouts of the Spanish Civil War. So I thought that was really cool. It's a really big side tangent, though. Clinton was president in 1993? Yeah. I didn't say otherwise, right? I was referring to the year I was born. I was not born in 1993. I was born in 1988. Mia Nakamite. Mia is sick. She thinks she might have COVID. All right. What do you do when you can't locate a source for a statement in an article or a book? An example would be if the source is a decades-old book that's out of print. This is a good question. When I can't find a source if I can't find a source that I feel really, really good about, I will typically go by the closest to the source that I can go for. Typically, like, if a source doesn't exist or I can't get my hands on it, which has happened a lot more recently because I lost access to my university library, so I really am limited by, like, whatever I can buy online or whatever I can, like, get off of, like, books or something like that. But, so for the most part, I try to just get as close to the source as possible. If getting a quote is super duper important. What's my opinion on conservatives? Oh boy. Someone with a Pepe the Frog avatar wants me to know what my take on conservatives are. I don't exactly have the highest opinion of conservatives. Typically, they are just, like, they're no different than liberals, right? Their take is to, like, most of them are neoliberal fundamentalists who have a religious devotion to capitalist economics, despite the fact that, the last 40, 50 years have shown that the entire belief system is based on literally nothing. I'm not going to ban him. I'm not going to ban somebody for asking me what my opinion on conservatives are. But I also think that now conservatives are showing their ass in more recent times because the sort of backlash to the moderate progress made for their, like, Black Lives Matter and like the Me Too movement has resulted in a sort of leaping onto reactionary forces that is showing that, all of these people have, like, not so secret, tendencies towards bigotry that they only put, like, a tiny veneer of respectability on top of. That was So yeah, in many ways, I find conservatives and liberals are virtually identical. Just one is, one has a more reactionary social politics, and the other one likes to pretend that they're a good person by, thinking that like a black CEO is going to solve racism or something. I miss the 1990s Burlington Mall. It looks so different now. I used to spend a lot of time at the arcade when the arcade was closed down 22 or 23 years ago. Jeez, Burlington Mall. I mean, my memories of the Burlington Mall are from the early 2000s. And even then, I didn't go there very much. But I mean, I worked in Mapleview Mall. When I did have a job where I worked in Mapleview Mall, which is not Burlington Mall. It was notably much further away from home than the Burlington Mall was. But I did do a job once where I was an inventory clerk for, like, a kind of company that did inventory services. And I ended up doing a count at the Sport Check in the Burlington Mall. I also used to go to the gym there, the Good Life gym, quite a bit. But yeah, gun to my head, I could not map out the Burlington Mall today. I'm noticing Vosh is usually wrong with his takes. Yup. Do you think that someone with his rhetorical skills could be valuable on the left? I mean, I don't know what, like, the thing is, like, everybody talks as if, Man Bun Man has these, like, great skills of oratory skills. The guy just appeals to fucking angry white teenage boys on the internet because they watched Rick and Morty their entire childhood, and they think that the person who is the most correct is the person who's the biggest asshole on, and he is very good at being extremely sure of himself when being completely wrong and being the biggest dick in the room. I haven't, like, what's it called? Like, I haven't seen this, like, silver-tongued salesman for leftist politics that everyone seems to think this guy is. He's just a dick, and unfortunately, to, like, 16-year-old boys who are raised in a shitty toxic masculine identity, or shitty toxic, stew, they think that being a jerk is synonymous with being correct. And that, having any authentic emotions about something is losing. How often did I go to the arcade? I did not go to the arcade very much. Oh no, that's not true. I went to the arcade quite a bit, but I went to the one that was in the movie theater, not the one that was in Burlington Mall. I had a group of friends who liked to play DDR, and there was a DDR machine at the arcade at the movie theater. So every Friday we went there, and I usually hung out with them and watched a movie at some point when I was, like, a teenager. What's my favorite color? Purple. Usually. Purple and green, depending on my mood. dark green or purple. Haven't followed the Brazilian election. I think I talked about it. I said that I talked about it a little bit earlier in the stream already. But basically, looks good for Lula, but there's a lot to be worried about because the person who we're worried about winning the election, even though they got fewer votes, is not the hugest fan of democracy. So. Let's see. Where do I fit in political typology? The closest thing that I would say that I fit in political typology, or in like sort of all of the political labels that the teenagers on the internet like, I would probably say anarcho-communism is probably the closest to something that I would believe in. Yeah. Do I like Billy Talent? If you had asked me when I was 16, I would say yes. I liked emo a lot more when I was a kid than I do now, but it's sort of coming around and having a nostalgia for me, so... Billy Talent would give me a little bit of... It gives me a little bit of remembrance of high school. Let's see... I'm from Ontario, question mark? Yes. I grew up in Burlington, and I now live in London. And I basically lived in Ontario my whole life, with an exception of 3 years where I lived in Quebec. Real emo goes back to the 80s, but it was underground back then. Yeah, fair. But, I was in, I liked emo back when I was in high school and everybody else was into emo. Because, friggin' the Green Day American Idiot album came out when I was in in grade 11. The Billy Talent, or not the Billy Talent, the Blink-182 sort of emo album, the self-titled album came out the year before that. So... yeah, it was I was at the peak period for getting into emo, Do I think Uncle Joe has done enough performative progressiveness for the Dems to win the midterms? I think that the Democrats are probably still going to... they're definitely going to lose seats at the midterms. It's just how much they're going to lose. And I think a lot of it has more to do with the fact that the Republicans they've been what's it called? They fuck the football really by constantly pushing this culture war thing about abortion, and then they actually got their wish and got abortion banned, and now they now they have a whole bunch of people who hate them for it, and so yeah, I feel like that's going to be quite the backlash. Do I speak French with a Quebecois called French? I mean, I haven't spoken French, je ne parlais pas français pour almost 10 years now. I haven't lived in Quebec since 2013, and j'ai pas la pratique. But I am trying to get some practice because I'm trying to teach it to my son, and I have to learn it myself if I'm going to teach it. Green Day isn't emo. No, Green Day isn't emo. They had an emo, the American Idiot definitely was an emo album, but they're not an emo band, but they had an emo album. I feel like you would, it would be pretty, I feel like it would be pretty, it'd be keep in mind, American Idiot was the album that had, When September Ends, and, yeah, Green Day, what's it called? American Idiot was a pretty emo album. All right. Do you consider yourself of J.J. McCullough? I don't know what that means. Opinion on abortion bans in the States. It's horrible. The last time abortion was legal in America, a lot of people died needlessly because they didn't get the health care that they required. And a lot of lives were ruined because they were forced to have children that, they couldn't afford. And I think that now, and so it's going to result in a lot of lives ruined and ended, because sometimes now abortion bans will result in people not being able to get abortions that they need for their health. Because sometimes, even if they go oh yeah, if someone's definitely going to die, then you can do an abortion, fine. But there's a lot of times where continuing a pregnancy is not going to be guaranteed lethal, but it's going to be risky. And at what point do you deem it too risky? And even then, risks don't always pay off, So, I think that it's going to end up with a lot of people dying and a lot of people growing up in a lot of broken homes. So you're going to end up with a lot of children who either grow up in abusive situations, or they're going to grow up going through the foster care system, which has all sorts of problems in and of itself. And you're going to have a lot of people dying of back alley botched abortions. Because proper abortion care without medical intervention can be spotty. Now, it's better than it was, in the 1920s, the last time that it was a major problem. But people aren't just going to be douching with Listerine or something like that, like they did in the 20s. Or not Listerine, Lysol. That was what. There's some very disturbing ads from the 1920s for Lysol, but there's safer medical options, but even still they're dangerous, and you could land you in jail. So it's bad. It's going to it's a further eroding of the rights of people who have who have uteruses in America, and it's there is no positive side to it at all. It's just going to sate some weird reactionary religious fundamentalists who believe that unborn embryos have some sort of innate magic spark of life that they believe in because of their religion, and so they need to impose that on others. It's fucked up. Children deserve to be wanted in an environment where they're provided and cared for, yeah. Any upcoming videos I'm excited about? I have two. So at the moment, I have my my President Garfield video, which should be coming out any day now. I'm very excited for that video. I've been wanting to make it for a year now. My Russia video, part 2, I'm pretty excited for. I've been working on it for so long that I'm just glad to see it actually come out. This is a video I've been working on since April, so I'm glad to have it finally, be in the public. And after that, I plan on doing a video that I have also been sitting on for several years on sort of why the political compass is bad, and specifically about the people who show how the political compass is, it's not how people's politics works, and it makes everything not make sense. And that is talking about people like Caleb Mopin and Peter Coffin and Jimmy Dore and Alexander Dugin and those kinds of people. The sort of the sort of people who are radically reactionary, quote unquote socialists. And I'm hoping that it's gonna take us all the way back to Strasserism and all sorts of things about how the ideas that we have about libertarian, authoritarian, left and right wing politics, to map politics on a Cartesian plane assumes a lot about humanity that is not true. Also, the fact that look how many I've seen too many cases of teenage boys who have had their brains poisoned by Discord, where they've had 16 mutually exclusive ideologies that are all radical in various different directions, all in like a period of like, 7 months, and if people's politics worked on like a neat Cartesian plane like that, that's not what would be happening. Another album I also liked that was very emo was what's it called? I was 18 when Welcome to the Black Parade came out, which I think is the only album. I think it's the only album that was made by My Chemical Romance that I enjoyed, and I enjoyed it quite a bit, which is weird. Mostly because it's actually the thing. The Green Day, like American Idiot, was the Green Day album I enjoyed the most, and Welcome to the Black Parade was the best. Was the only My Chemical Romance album I ever enjoyed, and both of those had this very unique style to them because there was this guy named Bob Rock who produced both of those albums. Bob Rock had spent the 80s and 90s producing all of Metallica's albums. And then they sort of decided to go rogue, and they dumped Bob Rock, and they went and made Saint Anger, which everybody considers like a huge disaster for Metallica. But Bob Rock then went and did like these two albums, and they were just like massive bangers. And like, this very unique, like I think in the scope of the two bands, they stand out as extremely unique albums, and they're both very good. What do you think is the best anti-abortion argument at the secular level? I don't think there really is one. It's virtually indefensible. Would you say I had an emo phase equivalent? I mean, I didn't have an emo phase equivalent. I had an emo phase when emo was popular. I didn't dress for the occasion. Like, I liked the music, and I had a lot of friends who were more into the scene look, but you never had me putting like streaks in my hair or teasing it or wearing like eyeliner or stuff like that. Not to knock any of it. I think that shit looks cool. It's just that I being a person who is rather rotund and also has extremely thick curly hair, just none of the sort of like, skinny jean, straight hair parts of the emo aesthetic really worked on my body, so I never did it. I am progressive on most issues. I think we might disagree about guns. I support the right to bear arms, and I hate Justin Trudeau without any debates and votes. Banned guns like AR-15s. I don't own any guns. I've never fired a gun. I support the right for people to own them. I'll be honest, my feelings on guns are very conflicted. I don't have a great take on guns that I feel comfortable with talking about, because I feel some of the things that you're saying. I also feel some of the things that the people who want to ban guns say. And I don't really have a strong thing that really centers me on it. Is it too soon to blame J-Reg? I definitely should definitely should include J-Reg as like part of what the fuck is going on with this generation of teenage boys becoming just radicals in like 18 different directions all at the same time, like as if left and right wing don't mean anything anymore. They're both concept albums. Coincidence? Probably not. Did Bob Rock work on Saint Anger? I thought he didn't. I thought that was like Metallica. I thought that was like Metallica taking on their producing their own album. Okay. Then what was the did they dump Bob Rock after Saint Anger? Is that what it is? I like the Sisters of Mercy. I also liked a little bit of Sisters of Mercy. I liked a couple songs of theirs. I liked More. That's a good song. And Ribbons. Those are the only two songs I know by Sisters of Mercy, and they're both good. But like that's like goth music. Like that's just straight up goth music. That's that sort of like punk with a drum machine and like that, like, you know, Bela Lugosi's dead type, like the kind of like deadpan singing style. Like that is just all of the markings of goth. I think that's what I think the genre is called goth music. It's been a while since I studied styles and genre. I took a styles and genres music class when I was in, I took an audio engineering course right after high school. And I remember in styles and genres, we talked about goth music. J-Reg having the sense of humor that amounts to sincerity is for the weak. Yeah. And I also, South Park also has that problem. And I definitely think that should be part of the conversation. What's my opinion on Jordan Peterson? He's a reactionary, he's a weirdo. He's a reactionary weirdo who I hate that he keeps getting attention. He basically just keeps piping up about how much he hates trans people. And I hate it. I hate his takes. I hate his opinion on things. I hate that every time he says something, he enters the news and then everybody has to make videos about him. I wish that he would just go away. Because he's a giant scam artist. Because he just has these shitty opinions so he can sell his stupid self-help books. I hate it. All right. Any advice for looking into starting to make history-obsessed political content for YouTube? Sure. What could I say about history and political content for? I would say first. So I always give this advice when somebody says they want to crack into a field that is very saturated. That there's basically three major strategies that you can go down for if you want to go into a new field. And I would do a lot. The thing is, like, a lot of people will just make videos and not be intentional about their strategy. And so I would think about the field, like research, watch a lot of what people are doing, and then think about one of three ways that you could contribute. One, you could be doing something brand new. This is like radically experimental. If you are going into brand new areas or doing having new thoughts about politics that no one has ever had before, or having new analyses of history that nobody's had before, it's extremely hard to do, and it's very hit or miss. The people, like, for example, I'm trying to think of like an example of somebody who would have this, who has done this well. I can't. In some ways, you could say that like. ContraPoints did this, because what Natalie did was started with the sort of typical political essay form, and unfortunately her old videos don't exist anymore, so you can't really see how she started. She started with a much different style than she has now, but like sort of evolved a whole lot of new, like a whole like visual language for the sort of political essay genre that has like, you know, taken over the whole thing. The other option you could go down is doing taking two things that don't typically get talked about in the same circles and bring them together. I always think of this as like how successful Zoe B has been for talking about English and literary studies when it and also having like kind of like leftist political essays. That I think would work. I also think that, like, you know, I think that Step Back fits that role while talking about history while also being very politically charged. I feel like is the sort of thing that I do. So there's that. And then the third is doing what everybody else is doing, but doing it way better. I also think that ContraPoints and, like, for example, I think the H-Bomber Guy channel also does really well on this. Of doing, kind of talking about things that people are already talking about, but doing it just so much better than everybody else. If you can differentiate yourself in, you know, one of those ways, I think that you would do very well. The problem that a lot of creators have is that they don't come in with a strategy on how they're going to stand out compared to all of the other content creators, and don't have a sales pitch for why should I watch you and not any of the many, many other creators out there. And so I would recommend thinking a lot about that, and being intentional about your channel strategy and what you talk about and how you cover things based on that. So that would be the thing that I would. Oh, there we go. So that would be my big piece of advice for how to get started. Is a lot of people don't enter with a strategy, and you know, I would say that a lot of step back. Like for me, I am a bit of a there are some people who can just be so charismatic that they just carry the entire YouTube channel on their shoulders. Like, you know, Mildred from Thought Slime is just so funny and charming that his videos just you know, you could be talking about anything and I would enjoy it. I am a charismatic black hole. I am not a very entertaining person. I also am extremely private. I'm an extremely private person, and I don't like talking about my personal life. I don't like talking about me individually. So, so I would say that, like, you know, that that all hurts on YouTube, because YouTube benefits if you can be very open and be very personable and have that rare talent to express your personality through a camera very easily and very like comfortably, which I can't do. I can't do very well. So I think that Step Back wins on the fact that it has a very solid, value statement. It's history, but history about why, you know, like, it shows why history is actually important for today. And that's the thing. That's really what the juice is. So so yeah, think about it. Think about your value perspective from that sort of standpoint. I plan on at some point making a Tristan Won't Shut Up video where I kind of go into this topic on how to stand out, because standing out is difficult, but there are strategies for doing it. Favorite board game of all time? Ooh, I'm getting into board games these days, and I enjoy a lot of them. Gloomhaven is one that I've been playing. I haven't played it in a while, but there's some things that I don't like about it. There's some things I really like about it. But if I were to say there's like a game that, like, every time I play it, I'm like, oh, I want to play it again and do it better, it's probably Wingspan. Stonemeyer Games' Wingspan. God, I could play that any day of the week and enjoy it. But I think mainly the main thing is that, like, there's a lot of board games are like a thing that I haven't played a whole lot of, but I think that, like, you know, my favorite board game I haven't played yet, most likely. Thoughts on D&D 1 or 1 D&D? There's a lot of recent stuff, like so 1 D&D is like the sort of play test for the next version of D&D that's coming down the pike. There's a lot of decisions that are being made in it, and most of them I think are positive. Some of them I don't like. Most of the stuff that I don't like about 1 D&D is more about the business practices they're going forward with. I don't like the heavy reliance on D&D Beyond. I don't like the heavy reliance on, or the attempt to make a 3D tabletop, virtual tabletop. I have, and like, you know, having like D&D Beyond being the authoritative source on books and stuff like that. That stuff I don't like. But as far as the game goes, like, just thinking about the way that the game is functioning, I think that most of the decisions they're making are good, because I think 5th edition's got a lot of problems that if they want to make, like, this is the authoritative one version that we're just going to keep tweaking on forever, that the changes they're making are the kinds of things they need to do to set it up to last forever, basically. Wingspan is just a very fun game. I like Wingspan's one of those things where when you're starting to look around down the thing, there's never going to... First of all, no round of Wingspan is ever going to be the same. And the decisions that you make and the planning you make is just all very interesting to me. Like, I'm one of those people who takes like 10 minutes to take their turn in a board game. But I enjoy all of the puzzles that Wingspan throws in front of you. And the way that you have to bob and weave with a lot of things. I enjoy it. Do I have any advice for someone with ADHD who wants to make essays but hasn't had a good education in writing/scripting? Thank you for the $5 super chat, Pinball Witch. What's a good answer for this? There's a couple things that you could do. First of all, writing is one of those things that you need basically two things to do well. You need to do it a lot. You just need to do a lot of it. And for ADHD people, which means that you have to find a way to... you have to find a way to have an intrinsic desire to write, which can be very hard, because writing is very hard and can be very unrewarding at times. And if you have ADHD, that makes it extremely hard for you to do it properly, which there's a few tricks you can do to sort of create that. There's the sort of things called the 4 C's: captivate, create, compete, or complete. And I find that I write better, if you like captivate, if you have a topic that you're very, very interested in, if you are writing something that is novel, or if you're being very creative, if you're trying something like brand new or doing something kind of creatively stretching with your writing. Competing, trying to challenge yourself or have a sort of competition in writing. I've written very well when I have other people that I'm trying to kind of match words with. Or complete. You have a due date or a deadline, which is most of how I do my stuff, is that I keep myself on my own sort of timeline for content to keep myself motivated. Or just even micro commitments. Trying to say, all right, I'm just going to even if I write one paragraph, I'm good. Because sometimes you just need to get that ball rolling. But that's just one side of learning how to write. Writing a lot is one thing. And learning how to get into the habit of writing a lot is one thing. But then the other thing is you need to find some way of being ruthlessly critiqued for your work. It's sort of like the advice people have given me to be funny, which is make a lot of jokes and have people who are willing to tell you when your jokes aren't funny. And so, I write a lot because I make YouTube videos, and then the harsh critique is, the internet's response to it. So find people who are willing to look at your work and be critical and aren't afraid to tell you what needs work and what doesn't work and what is working. And also, try those little kind of techniques to try and make writing have the intrinsic value that it needs to have for you to keep going. Am I rooting for Canada in the World Cup? I probably won't even watch the World Cup. I know Canada qualified for the World Cup, but I've never watched a World Cup, and I don't plan on doing it again anytime soon. I like 5e, but then again, it's all I know besides the occasional Pathfinder session. Yeah, 5e's got a lot of good things going for it. It's just that the changes that they're making are small, but I think that they are ones that will make the game stronger. Should check out Dominion at some point? Maybe. That sounds fun. Any advice on being more productive as a school student? Like others, I feel less motivated to study. I sleep later, overall unhealthy. One thing that people don't talk about is that bodily health, if you can take care of that, will be a big part of being more... I have found myself a lot more productive. I don't think I would have gotten through this year of having to work a full-time job while also taking care of a baby full-time. I don't think I would have been able to do that if it wasn't for the fact that I have gotten a lot healthier in the last year. Bodily health affects mental health in so many ways. So if you have an opportunity to even do something as small as go for a walk every day, would be great. It will help. It'll help a lot. And then as far as I can also say that being productive as a student in a lot of ways is about just chunking your stuff. Finding, the thing I found out a lot about going to university for the first time is that you end up with big projects that take more than like one day to do, when in high school, everything you could have done just like the day before and be fine. So you need to really get into the process of like planning out your projects, planning out the things you need to do, and giving them the time you need to do them, because and also then there's other stuff depending upon what fields you're in. Like science people definitely need to do like flashcards and intermittent or spaced repetition to keep on top of all of the terms and all the theories and stuff that you need to keep on top of. And humanities people need to learn how to read things early enough that they give things time for them to stew and think about it before they write about it, because a lot of the humanities is about analyzing things and having a synergistic take on things. But most of the time in school, you do your readings for class like the day before, and you haven't had time to think about it. So scheduling. That's the main thing. Read a book called Getting Things Done. It's a great book for sort of organizing all of your priorities in life and making sure your day-to-day is taken care of. It's been probably one of the most useful books I ever read. Another one that might be useful to read, I read it recently, and I wish I had read it a long time ago, although it only recently came out, is Tiago Forte's Building a Second Brain. Very useful. Extremely useful book. Both of those two are like the key to most of my productivity these days. I want to do media analysis of pieces that have made a big impact on myself. I'm not looking to be a big name. I just want to write about what I love. Then do it. Go with the gods. Have I received a lot of corrections on my Spanish? No, but I don't speak Spanish that much. I don't like, my Spanish isn't that great. I know enough to get by in a city, but that's about it. Treat your body kindly because it's the only one you've got. Yeah, I learned way too late in life that bodily health is it's connected to everything. It's connected to mental health. It's connected to your cognitive ability. And it's just connected to, your happiness and your enjoyment of life. And that making your health a priority is something that I'm going to push on everybody, because it was not pushed enough on me when I was young. And yeah, getting good sleep. Yeah. Getting good sleep and getting moderate exercise daily goes a long way to make you feel energized and gives you a chance to feel good. For sure. Yeah. If there's any advice I have for anybody who's trying to figure out how to be more productive or feel better, those are the two things for sure. Don't be poor. I mean, there are, like I said, yeah, it's obviously there are pressures on all sorts of things. Different people have different types of ability that can limit their ability to do exercise. But whatever you can do that is moving your body that works for you, do it. Even if it's small, just moving regularly will help, and sleeping when you can. And sometimes, because there's sometimes where you do stuff like where you stay up late to get work done that is not going to be good quality because you're tired and you're not doing things well. And just if you had just slept, you would be able to do it the next day better anyway. Something I wish I'd learned earlier as a student: librarians are your friend. Oh yeah, research librarians. I became friends with the research librarian at every university I've been to, because if you become close with the research librarian, they not only will they know what you're studying, they will help you so well with the bare facts of doing research, but also if you are a grad student, they will know your subject. I had since I was studying 9/11 and the history of the internet and stuff like that, I was really close with the history research librarian. And if a book ever came in that was even remotely attached to that topic, she would not only tell me about it, but she would hold it for me. So I would just get emails about hey, this book is coming up for you to pick up. And I'm like, oh shit, free books. Because she was always looking out for anything that she knew that I would like. That's the trick. That's how you do it. They're the most underused resource at any university. Did I watch Avatar? Yeah. I watched Legend of Korra too. Great shows. I've heard there's going to be a live action one. I'm sure it'll be interesting. I think there's going to be, I think there's like the people who made Avatar just started a new studio where they're going to make more stuff like sort of in the Avatar world. I'm jazzed for that too. I even have the Avatar RPG, but I haven't had enough people in my life who are fans of the show to play a game with that. Are you ever worried about talking about your videos just in case others hear and you want to do your ideas first? I mean, no. I've never... Like, I have had videos that I tossed out because somebody else already did it. But for the most part, if somebody else makes the topic of the video... if somebody who is like a big YouTuber does this, it just gives me an opportunity to, you know, take one of those 3 strategies and do something different with it. Like, I was planning on making a video on Tragedy of the Commons until St. Andrew did one. And now I'm going to, I put that video further down the pipe now, because now I have to rethink about how I'm going to meaningfully contribute to the topic. But there's enough room on YouTube that, you know, there can be more than one video on a topic. Hablo español un poco, pero soy rubio y solo hablador del español en mi casa. Oh. Well. I only studied Spanish for a little while, and then I focused on studying French, and I only speak... I've been to Mexico a number of times, and I only speak Spanish really when I'm traveling in Mexico now. Got a chronic form of depression on top of ADHD, plus just existing as a trans person. Yeah. I mean, you're definitely dealing with a lot there. If... I don't know, like, what's it called? Like, I will say that if you can ever... I know that depression really fucks with your, like, ability to motivate yourself to do things. But, if you can ever get out and go for walks, I swear it will help a lot. I know it sounds like a silly thing, and I'm not saying it's going to be a cure-all, but I think that, there's nobody who would not benefit from, getting a daily walk in. It's what I'm going to do right after the stream is over. Great advice. Go for a run. You can't be can't, and you don't want to be. Running is bad for your knees, but and also is overly ambitious. Like, going for a walk for 20 minutes every day will do a lot for you. And to most people, that is all the exercise you absolutely need in a day. Is just like a walk every day. You know, my doctor had pointed that out. Like, there's a lot of people where, like, the only exercise that they really need is just a walk every day. You can do more to get more healthy or to lose weight or something like that, but for the most part, like, if you go for a walk every day, you are doing, you know, the requirement to get your needed fitness in and your needed. Did you date the librarian? No. She was a lot older than me, but we were just friendly. I just was very nice to her. I meant James Cameron's Avatar. I saw it back in 2009, and then I instantly forgot everything that happened in it. And I don't exactly plan on watching the new one, not only because we have a baby, so I can't really go to the movies anyway. But if I did plan to go to the movies, it would definitely not be to see Avatar. Did not like Legend of Korra as much as Last Airbender because I wasn't sure what the fuck Korra was trying to communicate. Yeah, I mean, I didn't enjoy it as much either, but I still enjoyed it. Currently live in Vegas, so times 8 are good for a walk are not more limited. Oh, man. I don't imagine... I don't know what part of Vegas you live in, but... Yeah, I mean, it's not great. Although, personally, if I lived in Vegas... I know that I imagine that it's lost its glamour, But because I've been in like Las Vegas proper too, and it's like, you know, it's your standard southwestern town. But man, I'd be a sucker for like walking up and down the strip whenever I got bored, because I mean there will always be something to look at. And my ADHD goes fucking haywire anytime I'm on the Vegas Strip, because I've been there a couple times, and every single time you go outside, you're gonna see something interesting. But I imagine if you grew up in Las Vegas or you live in Las Vegas, that the strip loses its appeal. It's a lot. Plus, also being outside for extended periods of time in the American Southwest can be dangerous because the sun and the heat and everything. I ordered the book that you recommended on getting better at planning. That Getting Things Done, or Getting Things Done or Building a Second Brain. Both those books are good. I don't talk about wearing the aerial online for my safety. As for the strip, it's a nightmare to even be around if you don't want to be stuck in that. Yeah, that's true. The strip is just interesting. There's just neat things to look at. But every time I've been to Las Vegas, it's been on vacation, obviously. So obviously you interact with the strip differently in that situation. All right. I've seen LGBTQ bring up some no kink at pride in public opinions, and I feel annoyed. It's mainly because I know that discourse is part of what normalized the anti-gay discourse that flared up recently. However, I'm still a straight guy and largely an outsider to this stuff, so I feel like am I right to feel this way, or are you getting angry at the wrong people? Oh, Ask Mia when is there, please. Okay, never mind. Yeah, because it's like something I have no business to be talking about. So I listened to a podcast about ancient history. The other day, the host passingly mentioned the fact that he wrote his PhD thesis on the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Is it harder to get your PhD thesis accepted if you pick a subject like the fall of Rome that's already been done to death? The other day, you told me PhD theses had to break new ground to get accepted. Does that mean there's a disincentive to write them on well-studied topics? I would almost guarantee you that the person's thesis isn't just the fall of the Western Roman Empire. They're definitely going to be focusing on some aspect of it or some analysis of it or something, because no history department in modern day will be like, oh, they're going to study the Western Roman Empire's fall. Cool. You have to do something a little bit more specific than that. Otherwise, you're just writing a textbook. Grew up in Kansas City, moved out there about 7 years ago to be with your partner. I've been to Kansas City too. Good old Missouri. Good barbecue in Kansas City. Yeah, Vegas. Yeah, once you're out of the strip, yeah, I've been in the, what's it called? I took like a bus tour of Las Vegas when I was there, because you know me. If I go to Las Vegas, I spend at least one of my days doing a tour of the historic town. And I saw, like, I remember seeing the, the Pawn Stars. The Pawn Stars shop. I saw it when I was on the tour. Yeah, there's another history YouTuber that is a friend of mine who grew up in Las Vegas, so I've seen a bunch of stuff. You're from the Kansas side, okay. Yeah. I went there once when one of my wife's friends had babies, and we went to go see the babies. And we ended up spending a couple days in Kansas City as a result. How do you think the U.S. population will cope with climate disaster? Pretend it doesn't exist and wait until unrest forces change, or incremental do nothing until they have no choice? I mean, we'll see, but I don't know when this came. This is kind of new. There's just a huge climate change bill that got passed in the U.S. And I think that if the U.S. is going to do anything about climate change, it's going to be that they're going to do all these minor things until the forces of the market forces basically make it happen, which will happen too little and too late, but they will happen. We've already seen a little bit, like the U.S.'s climate policy is going to change because of stuff like how nobody wants to start a new coal plant because they know that there's no future in it, and how oil exploration is tamping down because every company knows that there's not much of a future in exploring for new oil anymore, and like all that kind of stuff. That's the real future. Although I will, okay, we're on the kind of Kansas City thing. I have a controversial barbecue take, which is that I actually am, my favorite American barbecue type is Carolinian, the sort of mustardy one. I like that shit. I like mustard though. All right. Trying to actually get some questions in because been just hanging with the chat all this stream because you guys have been asking some really good questions. We've had some good spin-offs from it. Thank you for that. All right. But I did when I was in Kansas City, I had some burnt ends and they were very good. Very much. If you're ever in Kansas City, get yourself some burnt ends. It's good shit. It's their specialty. What's the difference between North America and European mustard? I heard there was one recently. I actually don't know. I've only ever been to Europe once, and it was like a long time ago. I was 18, so the last time I was in Europe was 2007. Such a hot barbecue take. Well, I don't know. I just like Carolina barbecue sauce. What can I say? I'm not sure it's on your channel already and I missed it, but would you entertain a video on the US ATF gun walking scandal and on the litigation with Mexico as well as the precedent to School of the Americas and how it's not only for the death squads but cartel recruits as well? I don't know anything about this, so this is the first. I mean, America's like sort of involvement with organized crime and stuff like that. That could be something. Let's see. Thoughts on being able to make videos that were official replies to other videos? YouTube used to have a section under videos where reply could appear. That removed it in 2013. I know. I remember that. I was on YouTube back. My first YouTube account I ever made, I started in 2007. So I do remember video replies. I mean, it was a cool feature. It was very much from a time when YouTube was a very different platform. It was very much more of a social media platform. And furthermore, the feature, as YouTube got bigger, definitely got abused mercilessly. But yeah, video replies, an interesting technological relic of YouTube's history. Speaks to a YouTube with a very different vision than the one of today. What happened was you used to be able to make videos as replies to other videos, and every YouTube video would have a thing underneath that showed all of the replies to the video. If you had access to a Star Trek style holodeck technology, what programs would you visit? Would you visit historical program or do something else? I mean, I would definitely like to see what kind of historical stuff is in there. I have a feeling that like the thing I'd want to do the most, I feel like here's the real hot take. If I lived in the Star Trek universe, I have a feeling that I would want to just become a holo novelist. That looks like it would be very fun. And it looks like basically what my major skill set, which is DMing Dungeons & Dragons, would actually be useful for. And I feel like I would just want to check out holo novels of all different types if I had a holodeck. I still understand how there hasn't been a D&D episode with that uses the holodeck yet. They got close with the new what's it called? There was that episode of Lower Decks recently that had like where they were playing like a sort of Dungeons and Dragons with Klingons and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty fun. But yeah. Should make a video about American imperialism in Latin America, something early like the Banana Wars or Men in the Many Coups. It would be interesting. I wrote some about that. I wrote some videos on that topic. I wrote some scripts on that topic that I sold to the channel The Cold War. So some of the early Cold War videos that are on like the US's imperialism in Latin America were written by me. So those do exist. And I made a video on Operation Condor a few years back. So I have touched it. Even if I haven't touched it on Step Back. All right, with the recent report that came out showing that among other MPs, Trudeau, Poilievre, and the last two Tory leaders, 4 NDPers, and Elizabeth May are all landlords. Can I get a fuck landlords in the chat? Yes, please. You seem to be one of the few leftists on YouTube with children. Why do you think that is? Is it just that YouTube isn't conducted to family life, or are children less of a priority on the left? I think that there's a couple reasons. One, so why do I think that is? I think that there are a lot more people who are like, there's a lot more people on YouTube. Like, first of all, YouTube is an extremely volatile career choice. The only reason why I'm able to have kids is because my wife has a much better job than me. Second, a lot of YouTubers are LGBTQ+ and are usually in relationships that can't have biological children, and adopting is extremely expensive and difficult. So that's another reason. And a third reason is that I am older than a lot of YouTubers. Like a lot of leftist YouTubers are like still in their 20s. And I'm like, almost in my mid-30s. So that's another reason why. I think those are the main reasons. Because, like, there are other YouTubers who are in the same vein as me who are a similar age. And, like, for example, Mexi is having a kid, like, in 2 months. Like, but a lot of the other like sort of leftist YouTubers are a lot younger than me, or they are in relationships where they would have to be a lot richer so that they could adopt kids. To hear about a 31,000-year-old highly sophisticated amputation of the amputee surviving for years afterwards, which means huge social implications. Ooh, that's interesting. Did not hear about that. All right. How do you deal with the paywall to many research journals? Do you dedicate some of your Patreon money to accessing some journals? Do you avoid paid, or do you have some access from your former universities? I used to have access through my old university, but I just use PubSci. I'll be honest. I ain't proud. I'll use PubSci. Trying to come to terms nearing the 30s, really? 30s aren't so bad. I feel like, what's it called? In your 20s, you're still spending so much energy trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life. And in your 30s, you're more comfortable with, whatever it is you're doing. And then you kind of just keep doing stuff. I love messing with other sovereign states. Yeah. I get that. All right. Have I ever considered making a video about the effects of rail technology had on North America and how it was used to displace indigenous people? I have not. Sounds fun. Yo, what's up? What's up? Okay. The logic of these multipolarity people, shouldn't they be okay with the Monroe Doctrine? Because if Russia is allowed to invade Ukraine, then they are supposedly a threat to their security. And then by the same logic, the U.S. can do the same with Cuba or Venezuela. That's not a question, but I get the vibe. Do you like DOS games? If yes, which one is your favorite? Trying to remember what the DOS games are. I definitely played some DOS games back in my day. Is that like Math Blaster? I definitely played a lot of Math Blaster when I was a kid. MS-DOS, Masters of Orion. I can't honestly, like, I'm mining some very old memories here to try and figure out. There's Body Park. I'm trying to remember if these were DOS or just like Windows 3.2 or whatever. Yeah, I mean, like Doom. I think Doom was probably my favorite DOS game because I remember that one was on like a floppy disk. What video of yours were surprisingly popular or unpopular? Ooh. That feels like one I can actually go and search for an interesting answer on. Cause like, I'm always surprised. So the most the video that I'm surprised by how popular it ended up being was probably my video on the Yazidis. I made a video on the Yazidi faith that currently has like 100,000 views, and I was surprised that a video on such a video that got demonetized and a video on an extremely like small religion did so well. Reminds me that I need to make a video on the Roma people that I plan on making at some point. So that's always been on my that's one that's been on my list for ages, is to make one on the Roma people. And anti-Zygonism and stuff like that. Because I feel like that's a topic that has not been talked about at all by a lot of people, so. As for videos that surprisingly did not well, I'm trying to think about a video that I like invested a lot in that did not do well. I mean, there's a video that didn't do well, but I'm not surprised it didn't do. No, okay, I'll put that one. I need to put a playlist of like videos you guys slept on. My video on the freaking Girl Guides, which is a video about World War II. It is a video, which is a topic that people seem to like. And it was a video on that had an H-Bomber Guy cameo. It was both of those things, a video that had World War II and H-Bomber Guy, and yet it is like, it tanked. It did terribly. And I'm blown away by that. I also made a video on, not Assassin. I did an Assassin's Creed video, but I'm, you know, whatever. I did a video that was like a series called Know Your Fantasy, which was going to be a sort of about the sort of folk culture behind, link it, sure. About the sort of folk culture behind a lot of our like, what's it called? Sort of the context behind a lot of like our D&D staple things, if that makes sense, our D&D staples. And it never, what's it called? It never took off. I did several videos in the series and none of them ever did well, so I stopped making them. It's and I'm surprised by that. Like my video on where dwarves come from or paladins or any of those things just never did well. And I'm always like, oh man, I should like if I ever make it again, I'll probably do like as a Nebula exclusive or something. Do I like girls? I don't know what you mean by that. Is this some attempt to be like, okay, groomer or some shit? I think that there's definitely like young girls are definitely unfairly maligned. Like things that teenage girls like are derided just because teenage girls like them, and you know they have like, what's it called? Like, yeah. Am I officially on Nebula? Yeah. Yeah. I am also married to a lady. That also helps. Am I officially on Nebula? Yes. I have been on for a while. You're married? Yeah, I've been married for a while. I've been married since 2016. I have a bebe. I have like a 9-month-old baby. All right, let's see. You know how after 9/11 we got those bootleg Simpson shirts of Homer and some characters beating up Osama bin Laden? Do you think people are doing? Do you think people are doing that with the war in Ukraine? Like Homer dresses a Ukrainian soldier or something? Oh man, that would be very amusing if people were, but I don't know if that's the thing people are doing. The image, though. Become Cargo King. Oh man. What was the process of becoming part of Nebula? It's very much like, because it's all owned by the YouTubers who make it. So I got in because I've been like, I know like a lot of people who are part of the organization that are who are part of Nebula, and I've had people who were trying to get me in for years. Eventually, it was the siblings that run 12 Tone that recommended me, and I got in, and I did an interview, and then. Well, I didn't do an interview, but like I had a conversation, and then they had a process of onboarding me where like they vetted my stuff to make sure that that I was good for the content, a good fit. But I guess enough people said good things about me that I got in. It was all networking basically. And then onboarding was like, there's a Slack, there's and then like Dropbox where you have to upload all your videos to Nebula and stuff like that. But it's been pretty good. It's been a pretty good experience so far. I have a new microphone. Here, there's a new microphone here. I'm waiting for my a new audio interface that's coming in the mail. It was sent by Scott. Scott sent me his old audio interface, and once that arrives, I'm gonna sound a lot better because I'm gonna retire this Blue Yeti. Which do you consider you should stop okay, important baby question. At which point do you consider you should stop expressing age in months only? The general rule of thumb is 18 months. At about a year and a half, they cross over into being toddlers, and then you just, kind of go on that point. That's usually the rule. It makes sense because, like, what's it called? Babies like change so much month to month. Like a 6-month-old and a 9-month-old are like completely different creatures. So it makes a lot of sense. After about 18 months, I think the changes start to be more gradual. Wait, 12 Tone? Yes, 12 Tone. The Music Theory YouTube channel. They're run by a pair of siblings who are they're very cool, and they are very they're very based. And they're both of them have been Step Back patrons since like day one, and they have been huge advocates for my content and for Step Back in general. So yeah, I actually owe a lot of my success to 12 Tone, even though we haven't really worked together on videos because we're in such different niches. But yeah, Corey and Jareth owe them everything. More nepotism. I mean, whether or not it's networking. Whether or not networking is nepotism is that's a complicated question. They did Step Back's original intro music. That is true. Yeah, they did do that. That is all very true. Have I heard a fantastical liking of exotic culture, like people are weebs or how some are Indophiles, etc.? To different, like a fantastical liking of an exotic culture. I don't know what you mean by fantastical, but like I grew up with a lot. I grew up in a very multicultural part of Canada, and so I grew up around a lot of people from India and the Middle East, and I've grown to have a appreciation for various parts of their culture. I did my master's thesis on Islamophobia, and